Okay guys, I got a 2013 Ford Explorer, and it's only got about 20,000 miles on it, but it's got one heck of a clicking noise, very loud and very embarrassing if you're driving a new car, I guess, and they want it fixed. And it's a clicking noise on right-hand turns from the left front, which makes it nice and easy for me. I can get to it right here and listen very well. It sounds like a center cap almost popping, but it sounds more like the actual half shaft is popping in there. The actual joint, the outer joint that turns and flexes on the turns, and then it rotates on top of that, and from being worn, usually it can make a clicking noise just like this. Okay, so that's exactly how a CV shaft will sound when you go on turns and they start to fail like that. They'll do that clicking noise, and maybe quieter and maybe louder, depends how many miles are on it and how worn it is. Because there's so many varying loads upon a CV shaft, going up and down suspension, and then when you go on turns, it's just a bunch of different angles it goes through, and there's actually a bunch of balls inside of there just to make that turn possible. So there's a lot of places for wear to happen in there. When they start wearing, they can make noise. So it's not very common on Fords, and I'm saying it's not the problem on this one, but that's how they sound. This one has 20,000 miles on it, and it's a 2013, like I said. So I'm thinking unless they misbuilt that CV joint, or they forgot to put grease in there, it's not the CV joint. It's the actual, they got a message out to us about a new washer that goes between the actual CV shaft where it mates to the hub right there, the actual hub and bearing. And what happens is it's not a perfect fit, let's just say. So on turns with all those varying loads, it actually moves around there and makes a noise. Now I had a Fusion that had this exact noise also. It's like a 2013. So we're going to go back to the shop and verify that, and that's going to be the first thing we're going to do, and besides checking for basic play in the actual CV shaft once it's up in the air. Okay guys, so the parts came in for this one, and hopefully it don't look like a carrot on screen there, but who cares? It's about the car for fixing. The parts came in a little washer, and I'll show you real quick. It looks just like this, and this just splines onto the actual half shaft. And then this part right here adds friction basically, and they call it a thrust washer, and makes the half shaft grip the backside of the hub, so there's no more slippage and clicking. And I'll show you how it goes on. Okay, so go ahead and pull your wheel off, obviously, and then we're going to pull the nut for the axle shaft here, the half shaft. It's a 32 millimeter. And then we're going to take these two bolts out that actually bolt the strut to the knuckle here. And don't try to pull the bolt out, pull the nut off, because the actual bolt is splined to the strut here, so it won't turn. So don't try to impact that off there or turn it off there. Go for the nut side here. So we're going to pull this ABS wiring out of the way. There's one little retainer right here also. Like so, and it'll just be out of our way of our impact. And the nuts in the back side here are 15/16. Those guys off, and then you're going to want to thread them back on until they're flush with the end of the bolt, and we're going to tap the bolts through. And it's going to take quite a bit. It's a heavy duty bolt, and there's big old splines on there. You should be able to see them right here. It's got the splines on it, and that's why it won't turn. So you then knock these out, go for the nut side. wiggle it around like that, and it'll eventually come out, keep them together. And then we're going to tap this shaft through, and it should go through quite easy. And that's the whole problem with this, that this is too loose in here from the factory. The clearances aren't tight enough. So I'm going to be able to push it through. But just so I don't damage it, I use the air hammer in the center here. And you can see it came through it a lot of ease. So after that, you don't need to even pull this off. This will not stretch or anything like that. This right here is enough. You'll be able to manipulate the actual half shaft out of there and off to the side here. And you just slip that washer on there and back in it goes. Just like so. And then we're going to clean up all the rust and garbage on here. And same thing with the back side of the actual hub. So you have a clean surface for that washer to grip. It should be clean and ready, but all this rust right here gets all over it. And the same thing on the hub back here. And then there's going to be a lot of loose pieces. Just so I actually blow it out of there too. Okay, so like I said, this washer just literally slips right onto here. It's nice and easy. Like so. Done. Hop back in. Okay, so I brought you in a little bit closer here. So I got the half shaft through. It's spline with the actual hub in here, so it sticks through on the side. And then I got these two bolts in here. And you just line up the actual knuckle back up to the strut. And you get one bolt done on top. Just pass it through. And the bottom one you just push in a little bit. And the bottom one will line right up. You'll see. Just push in a little bit on it. And it'll line up. And then once they're all lined up, we can tap them through back to those splines. Just so they spline in a little bit, like halfway. And then you put the nuts on the other side and actually draw it in and do it properly. So I put blue Loctite on everything and suspension parts. I'm going to pop this harness back on right now so it's done. And then we'll tighten the bolts right here first. And it draws them in just like that. Same thing, blue Loctite on the axle nut. We'll tighten that down. Get the excess off of here, and then we're going to torque everything down now that everything's back together. And I'll put the torque specs down below in the description. So that's all there is to it, literally. I mean, just one little washer and then put it back together. So we're going to go for a test drive, and I'm going to show you if it fixed it or not, and I'm sure it will. Actually, I just had a 2014 Explorer come in, and it had 4,000 miles on it, and it was doing this exact same noise. Alright guys, we're going to take you for a ride in the same area, and we're going to listen to that wheel again. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful, because that's a really weird noise to go after. And there's no reason to change out a half shaft on these. You may have 50, 60,000 miles on yours, and you're starting to experience this, and you're thinking it's just wear and tear on the half shaft. Half shafts for these things are probably still only from Ford, Motorcraft, and they're probably about $500 each. They're so big and beefy, so it can be misleading. And I just want to let you guys know there is a TSB out, and there's this new washer so that it clamps that half shaft to the hub, so there can't be no more movement and cause that clicking. They're locked together now by that washer, that thrust washer. And the most important part of this repair is obviously make sure everything's tight when you're done, but is making sure that that axle nut they put back on there, I think the torque is like 258. It's a really high torque. You gotta make sure you torque it to that, so that washer can actually do its job. So I just wanted to show you guys an example of how it sounds. I think it's very important. It's a lot better in trying to explain it, and how it sounds afterwards, how it should sound. You know, no noise. So hopefully this helps.